Hello and welcome to the Perfectly Brewed Show. I'm your host Rahul Trivedi, and this podcast is all about breaking down economic, political, and social events that influence and shape our society. The Union Budget 2021 is around the corner, and it wouldn't be an overstatement to say that it is going to shape the post-COVID Indian economy in a radical way. You could sense the significance of this budget in Finance Minister's budget like now before statement. Since this is the first episode of our budget series, I would like to talk about how the Union Budget is actually made. So according to Article 112 of Indian Constitution, Union Budget is a statement of estimated income and expenditure of the government for that particular year, and it is broadly classified into revenue budget and capital budget. Revenue budget is further classified into revenue receipts and revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure includes expenditure on the day-to-day expenses of the government, salaries paid to the government employees, and money spent on the various schemes and subsidies of the government. On the other hand, revenue receipts include income from tax and non-tax revenue. Tax revenue comes from the direct and indirect tax, and non-tax revenue mainly comes from the public sector undertakings, which are basically the companies owned by the government. Now that we have talked about revenue budget, let's talk about capital budget. Capital budget is also classified into capital receipts and capital expenditure. Capital receipts include loan from the public in form of bonds and treasury bills, and capital expenditure includes expenditure on the development of the infrastructure like building roads, sports, school, hospitals, in the economy. So it is basically money spent on the development of the economy. It looks something like that on the screen. So these numbers are considered budget estimations at this point, and budget estimations are derived from the previous year's nominal GDP, and it says a lot about the intention of the government. It is not the real GDP that is taken into account, but the nominal one, because nominal GDP is not adjusted for inflation and it represents GDP at the current market price, whereas the real GDP is a derived number by removing the effects of inflation. So from the previous year's GDP, government projects the likely GDP of the current year. So it is just a projection at this point, a likely target of nominal GDP. After that, government goes on to projecting the absolute level of fiscal deficit it can have by looking at the FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. The fiscal deficit is basically the difference between total income and total expenditure of the government, and it tells government how much it can borrow from the market by issuing bonds and treasury bills. So at this point, it is not the actual fiscal deficit, but just a projected fiscal deficit, and actual fiscal deficit could be more than the projection, and government might have to overborrow in order to bridge the gap. After estimating nominal GDP and maximum allowable fiscal deficit, government can estimate how much it is likely to earn through taxes and PSUs. Once the government has an idea about how much it is likely to earn, it can go on and decide how much it can spend, keeping the fiscal targets in mind. After estimating how much it is going to earn and how much it is going to spend, after arriving on an absolute number, government can then allocate fund to different subsidies and different schemes. So this is how the budget is typically made, and it involves so it is, what I just said was an oversimplification of lengthy and complex mathematical process that actually involves a lot of stakeholders, all the states and union territories and stakeholders from different industries, and a lot of government officials from various ministries. So this is it for now. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about how the post-COVID budget is expected to look like, and there will be many more episodes on budget, and this is just the first episode of our budget series. And if you like this episode, like it and share it if you like, and also let me know in the comment if you have any questions. Bye bye.